Hello, it's Isaiah Grant, back with Thinking in Circles, and what I'm going to do is give a quick dissertation on the idea of Rahab, okay? Which is not only a sea monster or a great dragon, okay, as described in the Bible, but is also a figure that led to somewhat of an insurrection in the city of Jericho. She was a Canaanite woman, and Jericho, and I will put up an image to basically show you. Jericho was shaped in a circular way, okay, and Jericho actually means moon. This is getting quite literal. Oh, do you really believe that all these things were literal in the Bible? I will say like this: there have been some archaeological discoveries as pertains to the Bible that lead to believe that certain figures in the Bible may have been actual real people. However, when you get into there are four levels of understanding any type of scripture, any type of mythology, any type of story. And understanding these four levels helps you to get into dream interpretation to a greater degree of efficacy, okay? And it's called parties, okay? The P in party stands for Pashut. That's the very, very, very literal. I'm taking this to be a real person, okay? And then you have what they call the R. The next one is Ramez, okay, and that's like a moral understanding, okay. Then you have Darush, which is like an allegorical understanding, you know, like understanding the symbolism behind it. This symbolizes this or whatever. And then when you understand the symbology, you get into the S portion, so Pardes, Prds, which is Sud or Sud, and that is the secret, okay. And how do you attain to the secret? Secret Sud is Samek Vav Dalet, okay. Samek is 60, Vav is 6, Dalet is 4. You add those together, you're going to get 70, okay. Yayin in Hebrew is 10 for Yod, 10 for Yod again, and then for Nun, the N sound is 50, okay. So we both have something that's 70 and 70. Wine is Yayin. Sud is secret. There's secret in wine. If you guys understood wine making and how you have to sit the raw ingredients with the yeast together, okay, the yeast being an activated substance, we all have this yeast inside of us. Christ always told his followers, be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Leaven is something that causes bread to rise, and it will also cause juices to ferment and turn into wine. This fermentation process brings about pressure on the bottles, on the wine skins that the wine is being fermented in, okay. And you have to look at these containers, these kalim, they call them in Hebrew, as vessels, okay. Your body is kalim, okay. The psyche is a kalim, it's a vessel. And there's yeast teachings in there, if you have the right teachings, that will allow you to take certain concepts, certain mythologies, let's say, okay, certain stories, and they'll sit inside, they'll ferment until you're brewed inside a concoction that you become drunk upon, that alters your reality and your state of mind in such a way that you're able to see deeper even into other things. You don't look at the world the same way. Jungian psychology, Qabalah with a Q, QBLH, Aleister Crowley's variation, the tarot, all of these symbol sets that I have spoken much about. And I always say, hey, you know, you should study a symbolic system, because those will be the yeasts, and also myths, those will be the yeasts that will sit up, will ferment, will inform one another, and your unconscious will do the work and cause the fermentation and cause you to be able to see parts of what has been fermented in other constructs. And then your unconscious will take parts of those other constructs and pull them in, and you start to really start seeing things all as one unified mass. That's what these mystery religions, these mystery schools, these mystery dogmas, these symbolic sets were made to do, was cause individuals with very separate and sectarian thinking that think they know it all because, oh, you know, I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Republican, or I'm a Christian, or I'm a Jew, or I'm a Protestant, or whatever, that you have the way. Very, 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 very sectarian thinking. These symbol systems cause you to see all things as one. This is what the Qabalah is about, causing you to have a framework by which you can bring all things into a state of oneness and into a state of unity, because at the end of the day, it all is one. We are all one. We just see separate bodies, when in all actuality, we all have the same one spirit and life that animates us. It's just that same spirit trying to know itself through seemingly many different forms that are all made up of the same stardust. Okay, so we're gonna get into this idea of Rahab the dragon, Rahab the harlot, that concealed some spies that overthrew Jericho. Okay, and I'm gonna go through some of these notes as a preliminary. I'm gonna make some annotations as we go along the way and speak about this, and not for too long. I don't want to make such a long video, but why am I going to do this? Because it's very necessary that we get an understanding of the conflict of opposites and how chaos exists in things, and then also too how order, the ordering principle, the logoic principle, will come in and order this chaos, and how it's all part of a fractal nature. If you don't get anything from this, just understand that anything that it is that you're going through that may seem chaotic, or even that may seem ordered, right? It's all part of a fractal nature, meaning that if you look throughout your whole life and everything that you've been through, there are many parts that seem to be the same, just newer, different, maybe bigger, maybe more important, maybe more imposing reiterations of an earlier stage. Okay, and this is the fractal nature of ordering through chaos. You could see that there's some chaotic things that happen in your life, and then you could see that the same type of ordering mechanism came about right as you were at the peak of the disastrous situation. A door opened, you met somebody, or you came into a new way, a new mode, a new thought of being, maybe a new religion. Maybe you got into some type of hobby or something that changed your way of seeing things, that changed your way of approaching the world around you in such a way that you were able to continue to cope and continue to move forward. That's a logoic principle. That's why it may seem, and hopefully it doesn't seem sexist to anybody, but chaos was always was shown to be feminine. Okay, and chaos even exists in orders. Order was said to be masculine. Okay, but with all the order and everything that happens in order, sometimes things get a little bit fractious. There's wars, there's separations. Again, we have the idea of chaos shattering, and then there's factions that come together. That's logos again, that comes out of this chaotic principle. You know what I mean? So these are just the inbreathings and the outbreathings of life as we know it, but we're going to be approaching this idea through what I'm about to read to you, little portions, and I'm going to throw up references and also scriptures that lead, and also Wikipedia probably pieces that I look up that will kind of enlighten you a little bit deeper on the figures that I'm talking about as well, though, because the more that we begin to see the forces of chaos and the forces of order in our life, and they're interweaving. Keep in mind the Taiji 2, or the Tao, that in the ordering side of the Tao, the white sliver with the black dot, that's saying that there's the seed of chaos is there in what we seem to be order, what we see as order, and then in chaos there's a white piece in there saying that, guess what, there's a bit of masculine order in that feminine dark yin piece. Okay, the opposite of that being the yang. Okay, so we also see before, like in the mythology set that informs Christianity, informs Qabalah, as far as Adam and Eve. Adam had Eve inside of him as one. It was male and female before there was a split. And then a bunch of chaos came, and then a bunch of order came, and then a bunch of chaos came. And then we've been going back and forth on this whole thing before things were unified. And Adam, we need to remember, was created in the image of God, meaning he was male and female, but also in that type of unity was neither, was neither. God is male and female and neither, above those things as well, though, too. So this is really something to think about as we get into this, okay? Because I'm talking about more than the literal, okay? So we're talking about Rahab, the woman of Jericho, meaning moon. And we're also talking about Rahab the dragon, which is also linked to Tiamat, Leviathan, Tehum, okay, which is the same thing as Tiamat, etc. Okay, we're also talking about the unconscious and the struggle with the heroic archetype. Okay, so there is a word in Hebrew that's a root word and is also a name, Rahab. Okay, and this means to goad. I'm going to read the meaning of this. Rahab is to boast, to be haughty, to embolden, to declare great, to act proudly. Are we not like this when we are egoically inflated? And this is how we know that what I'm going to talk about here, the Coniunctio Urge, okay? Because when we're dealing with Rahab the harlot is Venus. Venus is the dove. I'm going to speak about this again during this lecture. The dove is a symbol of the Coniunctio Urge, which is the urge for either things to come together in unity and love or lust, or in hatred and strife, for something to happen in order for what? To find oneness, to find unity, to get a sense of that, or to actually have that. Okay, so we feel these ways: haughty, maybe emboldened, to declare ourselves great, act proudly. Okay, it's also to acknowledge one's authority, to feel, man, I got this in the face of all this stuff that's going on. I can do this. There's some measure of egoic inflation. There's some measure of narcissism, which is healthy in order to continue to live. Because if you don't have this, you stop projecting. If you stop projecting, you basically die. Okay, so some measure of this is necessary. Okay, so this dove, this harlot that conceals and saves these spies in the story of Rahab, which I'll put a very short description of this story. Give me 1 second. I'll put a very short description of this story up here. Is concealing these spies. She conceals these spies in a compartment in her house that were spying, because what they were going to do is they were going to overthrow Jericho. So they're looking out and they're trying to figure it out. She probably obviously knew, oh, these are the same guys that were responsible for defeating the Pharaoh in Egypt. So she had faith in these individuals, and she was able to harbor them so that they could do their deeds. So like they were kind of the yeast She was the container, if you will. She contained them so that they could go out and do exactly what occurs within the idea of the Coniunctio Urge. Rahab, being the harlot, is Venus or Aphrodite. Venus deals with the dove. Once again, what's the dove deal with? The Coniunctio Urge. The Coniunctio Urge happens within your psyche when it is constellated by some outer stimuli situation to where you feel like you either need to go for this or you need to destroy this thing. Okay? And you got to keep in mind too that this occurs because of certain social constructs, okay? Social complexes or psychological complexes that are either genetic or they're things that occur because of the way that your anima or your animus was formed from a time when you were younger, or because of the males or females that you met while growing up. You kind of were conditioned into feeling a certain way to your embetterment or to your undoing. But what brings this about is the psychological hooks that the object or the person has naturally within them that you're able to project those things upon. There's some measure of truth that allows you to feel 100% right in your projection and in the action that you will take during your state of projection. Okay? Sounds like a lot, but it's really not, and it will become a little bit clearer here as we continue. Okay? So we have to acknowledge one's own authority, you know, self-esteem, being able to say, I can hold this, I can hold on to this tension of opposites. To submit to, okay, saying I'll go along with this. I'm gonna go along with this because in this is something that I want. Okay, and this is the idea of Rahab. The word Rahab as a Hebrew root has these ideas in it. Okay, this is the root that we're talking about. To submit to, okay, to pay homage to say this is worth it. Okay, to insist. Let's go. Let's get this. Let's go. Let's go do this. Or let's get this person over here. Let's talk to this person. I really like the way this person looks. It's something about this person. I'm projecting my anima. Okay? This all has to do with the Coniunctio Urge. And Rahab, being the harlot, deals with the dove. And the dove is a symbol of not just Venus, not just Aphrodite, also the Holy Spirit. Okay? And we see, and I'm going to throw up on the screen, images of this dove descending and bringing the protagonist of the Heros Gamos, the Coniunctio, in the alchemical pictures of the Rosarium Philosophorum. The dove is actually the personification of the star, which represents the self with the capital S. This is why this is important. Okay? And I was just led by my unconscious, hey, look into this today. And I didn't really know why I was being led down this road, but it's like it's almost the holy grail of this psychology form, we could say, you know, with analytic psychology, or even with Qabalah. It's the holy grail of this form of psychology or form of mysticism. Why also too with the Qabalah? Because the Leth is, we can say, if we look from Malkuth up above, it's the last gate, but it's also the first gate. It's the fourth path in the tree of life. And being that fourth path, it links the masculine and feminine polarities. Okay, 2 and 3, those are Sephiroth. 2 and 3, it links those as a path. And paths are subjective, meaning this is something you go through, something you feel. What it intersects is an invisible Sephiroth, and the Sephiroth are objective. This is something real. This is something that happens to be one of these, you can say, fractal continuums, things that you can see in everything. It meaning, okay, if I can understand my subjective drive via the daemon, if you will, okay? Because this interlinks into that. If we look at the path of the Leth and how high it is in the Sephirothic tree of life, how high of a position it takes, right? and that it intersects with Death. Death is like the face or the head of the daemon. It's the first invisible Sephirah, you could say, that represents the Ruach, which is the array of consciousness, we could say, that man is interacting with through the senses and everything else. Meaning, this is what we're being, these are all these little aspects that are being used to goad us. This is the face of that being, the daemon, that is doing this to us through our urges and everything else. But why? It's not a game being played on us unless we're approaching it the wrong way. It's for the acquisition of knowledge, the highest forms of knowledge we can actually get through the desires, the things that are pulling us through along in life, the things that we're going for, even the more darker desires that we have, the hatreds that we have, the violent outbursts that we have, the violent things that we may do. We can gain some self-knowledge through all of these things if we're able to recollect the projections, which Marie-Louise von Franz wrote a very nice book, and they actually have it online about recollection of projections, okay? Recollecting projections allows you to first off gain more energy from the projecting that you were doing, and then also to figure out and understand yourself more through why was I even going for this? Why did I even want this? And keep in mind, not only in the doctrine of the daemon, but in the doctrine of analytic psychology itself, even Qabalah with a Q. It's about following urges out and really finding what underlies them, and it really is emptiness at the end of the day. And then who am I then at the end of the day? You know, and this goes down a deep rabbit hole, because it's you're the higher self, you're God, El, but El is also is 31. It's also equal to La, and La is 31, and that's not God. Everything that is nothing at its base. Okay, so continuing on about the root for Rahab, okay, is also to urge, to press, to importune, to excite, to exalt, fear, to confuse, to confound. Okay, all these things that you go through in your day-to-day life, these feelings that you go through, these things that cause you to question life, the spice of life, really, whether we like it or not. Okay, to dare, to challenge. These things dare you, they challenge you. Okay, they goad you. Okay, and goading has to do with the Coniunctio Urge, the urge to sit with the tension of opposites, to see what happens when the opposites unite, and to see the third thing that they'll produce. Okay, also to hasten, to quicken, to hurry. But what does haste make? Waste, right? Man, I went and I did this, man, and this happened, whatever, man, and it all fell apart or whatever, man. And haste makes waste. But if you think about even the ruin that you've gone through in your life, the ruin has given you, if you were able to integrate the lesson and think about what happened, it gave you some knowledge. It gave you something to think about. Okay, so not everything that you think was nothing was for nothing. It was actually for something. Okay, and that links back to the God is not comment that I made as well, though, too. El being La. Okay, so equally, the Reb means to goad with a sharp instrument. Okay, and we can think of this with the whole idea of Socrates saying that he during his trial that he was a gadfly. And what is a gadfly in the way that he possibly was saying it? He was one that they didn't like, because he made people think about hard things to think about, hard sayings. He said things in ways that people didn't like, and they were poignant sayings. And because of that, they put him to death. Okay, because he was somebody that made them think, and made them think about themselves, and caused them to question themselves and their own being and their own mentality. People don't like that. We've seen recently in the news that somebody lost their lives, whether people like him or whether people do not, he was a modern day Socrates in some ways, because he was saying things that got under the skin of people and caused them to question their own identity, their morals, the foundation of their reason, without saying you are wrong and you are a terrible, worthless person. And they silenced him. They silenced him. Okay? And this is what can happen if you become a gadfly. And I'm going to put up the etymology of the word gadfly, because it is insane. It's basically God, or the self, okay? And it's a goad, and it's something that's flying. Anything that has wings in imagery represents a divine power, okay? Like a very easy to see idea of that is the Fravashi in Zoroastrianism, that the circular disc with the wings on it, that's a symbol of Ahura Mazda, which is the highest god in their pantheon. Okay, it's a symbol of divine wholeness and power. Okay, and we're seeing that individuals that have harnessed this ability can goad individuals to feel some type of way, think some type of way, or can turn it on them to where they question themselves in such a way where it can be it could cause those people their complexes to rupture, and it usually ends up bad for the individual that is such a gadfly. Okay, Socrates and the individual who I will leave unnamed on my platform at this point, because I'm not here to get into politics and stuff like that though, but I do see what I see in an archetypal way, and I do see, oh, this aligns, this situation aligns, you know what I'm saying? So continuing forward, okay, Rahab, okay, means to goad, along with a few other things that we'll find out here as I continue to read. Okay, so the idea of Dereb, which we went over earlier, to goad, is the Coniunctio Urge. Okay, I'll say again. For example, it's unity out of chaotically fractured parts. It equals the number 206, but equal to that number is also dabar. And the word dabar means word, okay? And word is logos, the ordering principle which hierarchically orders fractured chaotics via its fractal hyper-organizational nature. It's magnetic. So that which is chaotic, times that are chaotic, have these seeds that can be activated by those that understand the fractal nature of chaos, and also to order. Order shows you this openly, that people start magnetizing to a center, to a leader, based upon things that they believe, based upon ways that they feel, based upon ways that they see things. Okay, and it all comes with what? A word, a platform, a place to speak, and individuals of the same type of mind and like way of seeing things and understanding things start to come all to one center and find themselves there, find themselves mirrored back to themselves after a large way. Okay, so it's good to understand that Rahab was a dragon, a planet, we can say, because there's a planet that they say that Lucifer is held in, or that Lucifer is inside of, called Rahab as well. There's a belief that goes into that. It's a harboring and saving harlot. When we think about the Canaanite Rahab, how she harbored the spies that were able to win the Battle of Jericho and take that place over. Okay, and keep in mind, Jericho represents the moon. What does the moon represent? Jung said the moon is the realm of the unconscious, and it's been known that in esotericism for ages. Okay, and Rahab also represents the dove, of the Coniunctio Urge. And I'm going to throw some pictures up there to show many different forms that you've probably seen in Catholic churches of what this is. It's the Logos. It's the Holy Spirit. Okay? It's an ordering principle. It's a principle that leads you into all truth, but you have to be able to see the fractal nature of your chaos, the fractal nature of the order that comes about time and time again after the situations that you're brought into, okay, and that you come out of, and how it is that you come out of it, because it's usually the same type of way. It's usually some of the same type of situations. Like I said, you meet somebody, or you get into a new group that allows you to become somebody better, to become something better, to do something better. Okay, you get into things that put your chaos in order, as long as you're able to step forward and do some better things. Okay, so Joshua chapter 2, and I'll put a little bit of that up on the screen, and then also chapter 6 verses 17 through 25, okay, talk about Rahab, the Canaanite prostitute, who hides the Hebrew spies, okay, and she's spared and her family are spared when the city falls, okay. And then she's also spoken of as a paradigm of faith. So she becomes a symbol of faith. And check out Hebrews 11 verse 31. I'll throw that up there, okay. She's also looked at as a paradigm of righteousness, okay. Now Matthew 1:5 shows that as well, though, too, right? And that she is an ancestor of Jesus through Boaz, and the word Boaz means severity. That's the left pillar of the tree of life, and by being the left pillar, the head of the left pillar is the archetype of woman. Okay, the head of the pillar of Boaz is, we could say, Eve. It's the imago of the mother in us all. Okay, so she's an ancestor of Jesus through Boaz and Ruth. Okay, and Ruth, it's a pretty amazing. Her Resh, which is the sun, Va being a link, Tav is Saturn. It's the darker portion, the darker aspect of energy. It's severity that you get put through that leads you to wisdom. Saturn also deals with Death. Death is sealed with Saturn, and that is the face of the daemon. It's a teacher that teaches through hard lessons. Okay, so it's consciousness being linked to that more harsher portion of life, the hard times that we go through in life, that we are taken out of from night to day. So it's basically light being initiated into darkness, darkness being initiated into light. Ruth, just that name, even in the way that the Hebrew letters put it, show the oscillation of the Taiji-2, or the Tao as it's called, the way that one will go back, the light side will go back to the dark side, and how both of them hold the seeds of the opposites within themselves. Okay, now Rahab also was a mythic sea monster, okay, or chaos dragon. Okay, Job 9:13 has much to say about that, and also Job 26:12 has a lot to say about that. Psalms 89:10 has much to say about that. Isaiah 51:9 has much to say about that as well. And we could also look at Baal versus Tiamat when we're thinking about the mythic sea monster, which was also called Yam, and Yam means the sea. And the sea is a symbol of chaos, but chaos that has creative energy that it represents. All life came first from the sea. meaning in its chaotic emptiness, and in the way that it also represents space, life comes from it. The first human beings that walked the planet were said to be created out of the sea. You see, so that's been said. Okay, and there's overlap with this mythic sea monster with Leviathan. Okay, and that's in Isaiah 27:1, and also Psalm 74:14. And there's also overlap with Tananim, which is Genesis 1:21. You'll hear about Tananim, okay, or Tanit, okay. And Rahab can mean arrogance, pride, or tumult. If you think about this, okay, so Rahab is a sea animal. So the animal desire in the unconscious is a large portion of what this is talking about. And we looked at the meanings of Rahab as far as the root is concerned. And what we see is that there's something inside of us that gets egoically inflated when we are going through this goading or through this coniunctio urge. We can also get deflated. We can also become unduly afraid or unduly proud and boisterous in our actions. You see what I'm saying? The egoic inflation, which is also hybris, can lead to the overturning of a situation, can lead to a third situation out of a dual and opposite situation. Okay, so Rahab can mean arrogance, pride, or tumult, and the name is symbolic, okay, as the coniunctio urge can bring about inflation and also revolution. Okay, so I also write here that let's also think in the idea of an ordering principle and a sea monster. Okay, Jonah and the whale, the way he was swallowed, thrown overboard, swallowed by the whale. I might put a little picture and put a little piece of the story, maybe a synopsis of the story up on the screen. He was thrown overboard, okay, into the belly of a whale because he didn't want to go to Nineveh to preach to those people about their impending doom. Okay, this was in Nineveh. Nineveh was a place in Babylon. Okay, so Jonah means dove. The number is 71. Okay, he entered the sea monster or the whale, which equals chaos. Okay, and Ivana, Yod Vav Nun, okay, the root of that means to Hellenize. Okay, and to Hellenize is the syncretization of culture or religion due to inherent sameness or similarities, meaning, you know, our religions, our ideologies, our cultures are the same. So, you know, we'll bring our gods together, we'll bring our cultures together, and, you know, there's so much of a parallel that we'll be able to get along, and I'll be able to take your ideas and views, you know, maybe you take some of mine or whatever, but now we're one culture because, you know, of some vestiges that also are of your culture, maybe from such a long time ago, that allow us to cohabitate with one another peacefully and to understand one another in such a way that we could create a coalition. We see this happening a lot in life, you know, where, you know, certain groups get together because what they have going on, even though they seem different, okay, and they seem separate, they're so much alike that they come together, and a lot of times they create a third thing out of two. Okay, we're talking about the Coniunctio Oppositorum, which creates a third out of the union. Okay, so why were there similarities? Noah was an Israelite, the founder of the Israelite nation. Abraham was from Ur of the Chaldees, and I put Noah. That's funny. Jonah is what I meant to say, was an Israelite. Okay, and the founder of the Israelite nation was Abraham, and he was from Ur of the Chaldees, a place in the location of Babylon. Okay, and this was before Jonah went to Nineveh, which was in Babylon. Okay, so the old religion latched in new form to the similarities present in that of the Ninevites. This displays how the logoic function causes order to arise by using psychological hooks present from old vestiges, okay? Vestiges, things from the past, okay? Past residue, meaning order arises from historical remains at times, and also disorder. Cultural complexes conceal the cause of healing and ill alike. And the magicians and masters of old and in this modern time know how to constellate their hidden effects with efficacy, okay? They know how to go back into history and to look, hey man, ultimately these people came from this place, and they're still living out some of these things. So we could have this guy come out there and speak to them about things like this that help stir this up inside of their genes, inside of their DNA, inside of it. It's already in their culture, you know what I mean? And they're gonna latch on. There's nobody else they're gonna latch on to that's so much like this guy here. So this guy is the guy for our COINTELPRO session with these individuals, you know what I mean? So we can pull them. This how you have shadow governments that are able to take over or institute people that are pro their government into places that have nothing to do with them. We see this happening throughout history too. Okay, so Rahab, now continuing forward, Rahab was an epithet for Egypt, okay, which was a symbol of pride and power and destined for defeat. A symbol of something being destined for defeat. It says in the Bible, for instance, pride comes before a fall. We always see in our life a lot of times, oh, I'm on the top of the world, I'm the best, nobody can beat me. And then, that's when you meet your downfall, because you were so blinded with seeing things one way and the way that you were seeing things, and you just had it down pat that the smallest stumbling block that was placed before you fell flat on your face because you didn't see that one point at which you could be defeated. Had you been circumspect, you might have been able to see, you might have been able to overcome, you might have been able to do better in the conflict. You see what I'm saying? So the idea of Rahab linked to the understanding of Egypt, okay, as a symbol of pride, power, and something, someplace, someone destined for defeat. Much like we are when deflated or inflated unduly, okay? And remember, still inflation of ego is what that is, okay? It's still hybris, whether you feel, unduly, oh, I can't do anything, I'm a victim, I'm just, an incapable person, no, we all have something that we can do. The thing is the problem is when we don't think that we can do something too much, or when we think that we can do too much. It's all about riding that center line, that middle line, okay? So Tiamat in Babylonian literature, okay, Rahab is the Hebrew adaptation of the ancient Near Eastern chaos conf, okay, which means divine combat against the waters or the dragon, out of which results creation of a new world in the whole idea of Baal versus Tiamat, okay, or Baal versus Tehum, chaos, okay, and also the Aztec myth of Tezcatlipoca and his brother. It was a big deity in the Aztec religion. I will throw something up about this because I'm having one of my many brain farts on the name of this deity. I will put it right here across the screen so that you can see it, and so maybe you can see a picture of it. But they fought against this crocodile named Cipactli, and they took it apart and they used its parts to make the new world. Okay, we're seeing chaos coming out of order. Okay, also Marduk and Tiamat, okay, speak a lot about this idea. All right, so I want us also to think about, okay, within this talk, okay, we're 44 minutes in. Sorry for such a long time here, but it's very necessary, because if you can dwell on these ideas, if you can think on these ideas, And if you can understand that this is dealing with the crux idea of analytic psychology, of Qabalah, of the unity of the opposites, of a third coming out of opposites, something that you think it is, and then something that shows that it's not, and then you watch the conflict, or you partake in the conflict, and then something has to give. There's a third thing that comes out of those two, by either two becoming one, or by one Xing out the other, and then there being only one. There's still unity that comes out of it. Either two is one, or one minus one, which is going to be one by itself, a new one without the other. There's a third thing either way. And when two come together, especially in animal species, human species, you get a third thing in the birth of a child. Okay, so and psychologically, this is more so in the conflict of the opposites that you have going, things that are going on within you. You see them in the ideas of dreams. You see it in active imagination. You search yourself about where you are in life, and then you can see, like, out here I'm doing all this, but really it's about this thing that's going on inside, and you notice the conflict that's happening on the in between because of this. And it's like, okay, I have to find a way to make peace with this. Once you do, it shows up as a amalgam of the two, and it's a third thing that allows you to continue forward in spite of what's going on. Okay, so I write here, when chaos is brought to order and a new thing is brought about, it is a third thing out of the unity or conflict of two. 2 + 1 = 3, for instance, right? In the Hegelian dialect, you have thesis, interacting with antithesis. Okay, and then after the thesis interacts with antithesis, there's a synthesis, a new synthesis, and that new synthesis becomes the new thesis. Okay, this third thing is a product of the coniunctio, which is also responsible for synchronicity, which is an emergence into the conscious realm, which directly corresponds to something that you can remember that occurred in the unconscious realm. And it is an expression of the psychoid nature of the archetypal realm, which I have referred to in other lectures. The Hebrew root expresses this idea in encoded form and in extended meaning. Okay, and I'm going to give you the extended meaning. Okay, the Hebrew root is zevug, zayin, vav, gimel. Okay, which are the lovers, the Hierophant, and the high priestess. Okay, and the spelling of that word will give you those tarot cards, those three letters, zayin, vav, gimel. Okay, is the lovers, the Hierophant, and the high priestess, which could say, okay, an experiment or a tool of and via polarity of initiation and teaching, which reveals the self to the conscious mind. Okay, via polarity, it's an initiation and teaching that's showing the self, revealing the self, the third thing out of the opposites, to the conscious mind, so you can know it. Okay, which is deas. Okay, through that desire, that links Sephiroth 2 and Sephiroth 3, the imagos, those very, very distant parts of you that are the parents of the conscious and the unconscious, the moon and the sun in the Rosarium Philosophorum pictures, that end up culminating in knowledge that falls upon the conscious mind, that is higher knowledge than that which is lower. The P in parties that I talked about in the beginning of this lecture, it is the Sud, the secret. Okay, but we have to know some symbol sets. We have to have some erudition on these things in order to unlock the meanings. Okay, so continuing forward, Zevug, okay, Zayin, Vav, Gamel, which I just explained the tarot cards and the meanings, equals 16. Okay, 16. Okay, and the root means to pair, to match, to coincide. Okay, meaning coincidence. This and this linked together somehow, some way. right? To mate, to copulate, to cohabit, live together. Okay, Rahab. Think about what Rahab did. You guys, you spies, can stay in here, and then you guys can hop out and do what you have to do when the time is right. And you can gather and sit here and gain the information in my presence as I represent desire for what it is that you are going to do next. And she was a harlot, a prostitute, meaning she was something that was in the Judaic and even the Christian idea, somebody that it was destitute of morals, terrible person, but she was one of the greatest people, an archetype of faith, an archetype of righteousness, okay? And of the and was, you could say, a relative of Jesus, okay? That's something really big to think about, that something so pure and something so holy could have brought forth, or something unholy, something so thought to be impure could have brought something so pure into the world down the line, okay? Could have been a part of that, could have been the reason being alive that happened, that Jesus came into the world, for instance, right? The pure, righteous, holistic consciousness is what that represents, that it could come from something like that, okay? So to pair, to match, to coincide, to mate, Zabu represents, okay? To copulate, to cohabit, to join, to wed, to bring into marriage, right? Also, it means to happen or to occur. Doesn't this what, coincidence? This is a synchronicity, is a meaningful coincidence. Isn't that what happens, right? And it's because something in the unconscious comes to mind, right? Note that Venus, who was a whore, the goddess of whores, the goddess of prostitutes, etc., okay, that she was a god of war, sex, and love. And we see this with Rahab, okay? We see this with Rahab in so many different ways. War, sex, and love, okay? Sex and love, prostitute. War, the spies, okay? And her symbol is the dove, Venus, okay? Also, this is the symbol of the Holy Spirit and also of the Logos, okay? The Logos being the ordering principle, okay? And she would also represent, as Rahab, as a harlot or as a dragon, the chaotic aspect, that she's one with these things now, order, the Logos and all these things, okay? Also, that of the Holy Spirit and the Logos is the dove, okay? That links to Rahab, or that links to Venus or Aphrodite for that matter, okay? The embodiment of the Coniunctio Urge is what the dove represents also, which manifests via strife, war and hate, and love. I spoke about this earlier, okay? Or lust. Sex also is symbolic of not only the psyche, and I've said this so many times, but the unity of the opposites. So the symbolism is unitary in its manifoldness. And I think because of the manifoldness of the symbolism that we encounter, that we run into so many different issues with interpretation, because we don't know how to logoically divide these things. Because if we knew our symbolism, we could see clearly what is being stated here, what is being stated in books about the Coniunctio Urge. Edward F. Edinger speaks about it a lot, and I think he's the one that coined that terminology. But it is the Coniunctio Urge, the Heros Gamos, the marriage of the opposites of Rex and Regina, the sun and the moon, the conscious and the unconscious, is the crux of, once again, occultism, of analytic psychology, Qabalah. This is what we're trying to get to in order to achieve gnosis, or higher knowledge, instantaneous knowledge, if you will. So I just wanted to put this out here about Rahab, and about the Coniunctio Urge, about the unity of opposites, about the third thing that can come out of this, which is gnosis, okay? Well, we're all yearning for it. and what we are all also learning for day upon day to interact with that. But it comes with understanding our desires. It comes with not just following them out in an animalistic and blind fashion and being overcome with them, but also seeking back and linking back and following the string out of the maze of our many desires and the many paths in life that we will follow back to the center. Where is the self in this? Okay. So I'm gonna end this talk here at this point because this is like about an hour. But those that were able to stay this long and to dissect a bit of what I said and got something from what I said, I'm happy that you were able to share this time with me. Thank you for being such loyal viewers, and please share some comments with me about this talk, also about what you might want to hear about, see further. Other than that, hope you guys have a great day. I'm about to go. This was actually right on time for me because I'm gonna go in and do some jujitsu, learn how to make order out of chaos. That's what we're always doing. You know, we're ordering individuals trying to attack us, ordering the chaotic situations that they put us under by using geometry, by using numbers, by using frames and geometric shapes, triangles and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? So we can find this science in everything that we are encountering, and it sure does spruce up life, because sometimes life devoid of this type of knowledge, it would totally suck for me, you know. But without further ado, thank you, Isaiah Grant with Thinking in Circles. Thanks again for taking this time with me. Until next time.